and also your passion, because passion is, I think, very important in your career. Then I thought about what would be the next step, and then I turned really away from the business unit to the BASF Sustainability Competence Center, what it's called.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Plastic Climate Future in the special series with Circularise about sustainable polymer technologies. And on the other side of the screen, I have again Mesbah with me tonight. And I think we're both super excited to have a very special expert from the space of circular economy with us tonight. And Mesbah, I give it to you. You can announce the name if you want.
Of course. So today we're here with Christian Krüger from BASF. And
Whoa.
we are extremely interested in, where Christian is coming from, how your career led you to be at this point, and also, a little bit about yourself and your background. Maybe let's start there, Christian.
I think I start really because I have a long sustainability journey already, and also in chemistry. So I think
we have time, Christian. We have time. We can talk until late.
My first touch point was actually in school already. Yeah. So in school, I was really interested in environmental impacts. Yeah. So that started at that time. Yeah, my interest in something in environment, and for sure, okay, if you want to study natural science, okay, you can study. I have chosen chemistry, and especially polymer chemistry. I'm a polymer chemist expert, where I did my PhD as well, also here in Germany. And then I had the good chance to start in maybe one of the best companies for us as German chemists. It was BASF, or is still BASF at this time, in R&D, where I developed polymers, not real plastics, but it was polymers, functional polymers in different applications, agrochemical applications or detergent applications. I worked together with Henkel, for example, on the next generation of Persil detergents. So I also get into contact to consumers already, and the impact what a product can have on consumers, and also environmental and health aspects plays a big role. So I came also in contact with that. And then I changed to the development department, where I really did led a lot of projects around how those polymers have a performance in the applications, also in the environment, and it was environmental friendly products in the end. For example, formaldehyde-free binders for architecture coatings. You know what you have here. You see here the gray wall, and there's probably also BASF inside. So BASF is actually almost everywhere. Yeah. And so I had to think about also the next generation of what the society needs, and therefore environmental impacts was always important in my career. And then at a certain point in time, you come to a point where you say, what's next? Yeah, and when you count now environment, polymers, impacts, and also your passion, because passion is, I think, very important in your career. Then I thought about what would be the next step, and then I turned really away from the business unit to the BASF Sustainability Competence Center, what it was called, which was in the EHS department. And then I learned how to assess sustainability, but really from a very, very scientific way. So I did really eco-efficiency analysis, which BASF developed, I think, 25 years ago. And we were the first in the industry, in the chemical industry, doing that. And I remember there was one study where we studied the environmental impacts of an old chemical landfill. Yeah, and that was my longest study. I think it was 1 year, together with big partners also outside of BASF. And after, I thought analyzing is one thing, but applying it or consulting or advising something, to make really impact, to make change, then I got the opportunity to go into our applied sustainability department in our corporate unit, and there I consulted business units, business divisions, big ones, which have in total 10 billion euro today, and it was the care chemicals business and the dispersion pigments business. And there I helped them to implement the sustainability strategy, to assess the risks, what they have, to phase out maybe the most critical products, how to generate business cases where on the one hand you have impact on sustainability, but on the other hand you have also a business value. And because you also know if you want to have a positive environmental impact, it should not go against the economics, because otherwise a company cannot survive. So you have to find this compromise even. And there I did a lot for those. And this care chemicals business also covered this very, quite disputed topic of palm. So I was, because BASF is the biggest industrial consumer of palm-based products. So we have a responsibility, and I felt this responsibility also, about deforestation or other things which are related to that. And then we had more the topic, because it's a strategic department. We evolved from an EHS department to a strategic department, to the heart of BASF. And then we said, okay, what's next? And then I came to my next position in sustainability, that was circular economy. I was a circular economy expert in this, and my role was to bring in renewable and recycled feedstock in our value chains, because BASF is still very much linear. We have, I think, 5 to 6% of our share of feedstocks is circular, so bio mainly, but almost no recycling. And the main value chains were 100% fossil. So that was really a good chance for me to change something, to really bring also all your expertise and your passion into the game, and start to develop concepts which are eligible also for a business case, and which have an impact not only on our company to change, but also to have an impact to our society that we can offer. And that was balance principle in the end. What you need for the next probably 20 years or more. Some people say, is there an end of mass balance? I don't believe, but okay. That's still this. You can discuss that. And in this role, it was really great, because I could bring in my expertise in purchasing, so upstream, what is going on there, down to the origin of a waste, of a renewable, even back to the field, and bringing that to BASF, so production processes, networks, complex chemistry, down to the applications, then customers, because you have to develop concepts, marketing concepts, which work, and that was really great. And in the end, I was doing this job, I think, for 2-3 years now. And this year I changed then to a more implementing strategic unit, and not a developing strategic unit, but a implementing strategic unit, because BASF has a net zero division, because we want to become net zero in 2050. And all of the technologies, what we are developing, what we have, what we want to scale up, is bundled there. And there is one bucket which is chem cycling or chemical recycling. And I'm leading their team now for regulatory affairs and sustainability. And so that means that I'm helping to really set the frameworks in policy, to which standards are necessary, we evaluate for sure the environmental impacts by LCA, for example, or even the EHS risks. What comes with chemical recycling is assessed also in my team. And also the communication is also there. So it's also important how to bring this complex topic of chemical recycling and all those related topics which are popular in the environment, in the society, how to communicate that. Yeah, not only to a stakeholder like policy, but also to a stakeholder like experts, also to stakeholders like brands. Yeah, and therefore our communication people are responsible for. And I'm very happy and still passionate to bring in all my expertise there and with me and my team, and that keeps me young, hopefully for some time, hopefully still. And so there I'm still there and still in the circular economy world, and hopefully for some time still in front of me.
Yeah, and this point, I think it's also worth mentioning, because probably not everyone knows that actually BASF is not a small company, and if you pass by Ludwigshafen, you see that it's actually almost like an own city with its own infrastructure. So it's not only plastics that we're talking about. So BASF is doing a lot of other chemicals that are being used, as you just mentioned, basically everywhere in the industry. And how much of this is related to polymers now that you're working on, like, percentage wise? And you mentioned also, the topic of chemical recycling. Is this then focusing within your role only on polymeric products, or is it also involving other product groups?
I think polymers is a very, very big share of our polymer segment, let's say, because we are only not only producing polymers or plastics, which we then sell to downstream, but we are also producing intermediates or additives which go into plastics or into polymers. Yeah? So if you overall count that, I would assess, that roughly half of our turnover goes into somehow polymers. Yeah, maybe not directly, but indirectly as well. So that's a huge proportion of BASF is really, if we have now 87 billion euro of turnover in 2022, so I would assess really it's more than 40 billion euro, which goes in the end to the polymers part. But plastics is one, but polymers, as for example the binders here in this wall coating, that's another application, but that's a so-called functional polymers, you can say, or functional polymers going to detergents, but it's a major share of BASF, yes.
So can you say that basically, like, say, more than 60% of your work is related to plastics then?
My current work is chemical recycling. Yes, this is very much related to plastics. Yeah, first because the feedstock what we're using comes from plastics. So chemical recycling says already. So you need a plastic waste, and a plastic waste is with different technologies, and we are doing many different chemical recycling technologies, not only pyrolysis and gasification, but also depolymerization. We are also using dissolution recycling, and this you are turning then plastics into a monomer or a basic chemical building block where we can build up new plastics again, and as well as chemicals. Or polymers, you can say. Chemicals is also some functional polymers are covered under the chemicals segment, and this is done in an integrated production. Yeah, it's not separated. Yeah, so you can Ludwigshafen, for example. There are more than 220 plants, and it's the world's largest integrated production network. So probably the most complicated in the world. And we are producing probably more than 10,000 products out of thousands of feedstocks and intermediates what we are purchasing. So very, very complex. Yeah? And so we always say if something works at BASF, a new concept, then it works for the whole chemical industry. So that's a little bit of a rule, what is out there, because the typical plastics industry, like think about the polyolefins, for example, these are very much linear value chains, and BASF is a very much branched and complex production network where carbons and hydrogen are going to the one value chain, then to the other value chain again, and then back because we want not to incinerate our own waste again. Yeah, we are utilizing as much material as possible, and saving there actually for a Verbund site like Ludwigshafen, we are saving, I think it's 1 million tons of CO2 every year just because of the big site. Yeah, if you would compare them with an isolated site. And that is really fantastic. I think when you come to Ludwigshafen, I can show you some things what we are doing and how complex it is. And then you can imagine, if, for example, Circularise is developing a software and it works at BASF, then it works for all chemical companies.
Well, then Mesbah,
challenge.
it's
I would
up to you now.
I would say challenge
accepted.
and invitation accepted. We'll come to Ludwigshafen to make it work. No, that's awesome. Well, thanks for that great introduction also in your career and where you come from. That's very inspiring, and it's been a long journey, I guess, right? And many years at BASF with different functions. So as a pioneer of both mass balancing as well as chemical recycling, you could play the devil's advocate and say, hey, mass balancing is not, is greenwashing, or you could say chemical recycling is not something we should have. Like, how would you respond to that kind of like comments, and how do you justify from your personal perspective, why mass balancing is kind of the way to go, specifically for chemicals, and also why chemical recycling, and why is that something that the world really needs?
I mean,
but before you start, because you're both experts in this, but I know me and the audience might not be, so maybe just in 2 or 3 sentences for a 5-year-old or your grandma, what is mass balancing? Maybe first Christian and then Mesbah. Let's see if it's gonna be the same.
So me, I was I think 3-4 months ago I was in the commission invited, and to explain why do we need that, and why do we need this special model, for mass balance, because mass balance is so many different versions you have. Let's call it like that. And I always said, if you mix something sustainable, which is new, with conventional feedstock in your production network, and you're using only very little sustainable feedstock with a lot of conventional feedstock, it's highly diluted then, nobody can measure anything in the output side. And then mass balance comes into place, because then you can attribute this sustainable benefits to one product or to another product, which then gives really a market value for somebody who will buy that. Because they're only buying something on the downstream side if they see some impact and some value which they can also communicate. And then they're paying a premium. They are not paying a premium because it's highly diluted and you might find 0.1% in the output. Nobody's paying for that any premium. And then a chemical company could not earn anything in addition, would go against its own earnings, and that's for sure not the right way to go for this transformation. Therefore, we need it. It's crucial. It's crucial for our future.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. Fully agree. By the way, I was playing devil's advocate. So the way I like to explain mass balancing is like, if you have a very complex established system where you have potentially spent billions of euros or dollars into that system, and there is only a very, very tiny fraction of new type of material coming into that system, practically you can't really justify to segregate that, right? In most cases, especially in plastics and chemicals. So it's like practically it doesn't work. In theory, we wish we could do that, right? But because of it being very, very expensive and prohibiting any kind of innovation in practice, you want to be able to essentially allocate, as Christian is saying, some sort of input to a certain output, even though in practice that might get mixed because of just limitations of how the system is set up and the amount of investment it would take to set it up differently. In a more like setting of when people become a little bit more emotional and talk, well, I bought something and it was mass balanced, so maybe the product that I bought is not even recycled and it just says it's recycled, or it was bio-based but it's not really bio-based because it's a mass balance claim, and I finally understand what it means, so my product isn't even bio. I always refer to the question like, why do you buy a bio product? Do you buy this sustainable product because you want the sustainable product in your hands? Or do you want to do something good for, let's say climate change or the atmosphere, or you want to contribute to something? And if that's the case, should it really matter whether it's attributed or it's the product in your hand? Because we ultimately have one atmosphere, right? It really doesn't matter if it's an allocation that is done through mass balancing or you have that final bio-based product in your hands, right? So why do you actually care about this? And if you care about having a recycled products because you want it in your hands, then you shouldn't support mass balancing. Yeah, but if you care about sustainable products because you care about the planet and the atmosphere, then it shouldn't really matter as long as it's done correctly.
Exactly, and I think impact is the most important. I want to have an impact on the change. I want to have an impact to be more sustainable, and that's mass balance is offering to you. If I go into a supermarket, I'm buying a fair trade chocolate. I feel good because I know it's something good in the upstream supply chain done. Because there is some money then spent to laborers or to somebody who needs that. Yeah. Or I support then also a fair trade chocolate who's done. Yeah. And that's guaranteed by certification schemes. And that's trust. A certification scheme gives you trust because it's along the whole supply chain tracked, and every supply chain actor is really checked whether he's doing the right things, that there is no double counting allowed. Yeah. And for sure, Circularise has also one solution where it's digitalized because it's very complex. So if that is a good system and that works and it's verifiable and validated, then it's even better because it helps companies to much more easier to let independently check that everything is all right, that double counting is excluded.
Yeah, I see you must have been super smart 5-year-olds because these definitions were very good, but also a bit complicated, at least for me. But what I understood is that it's a lot about transparency and it's a lot about traceability in the supply chain. And as I am also from the space of circular economy, I know that materials, especially raw materials, the smaller the molecular structure, the earlier they are part in a circular value chain. So they are always right at the beginning of the value chain. And when we see now, we talk about traceability and transparency to enable also the closing the loops in the end, because everyone needs to be sure what they get and what they pay for, especially companies that are producing these raw materials or the materials at the beginning of the value chain. How do you see their role and maybe responsibility? Do they have a special role when it comes to building these transparent supply chains? Do they also then have a special role in the circular economy transformation?
I mean, I think that the change, the responsible for the change is not only at the upstream, it's along the whole value chain. Yeah. So therefore partnerships is very important. Yeah. But the responsibility of a manufacturer, like in the upstream, it's for example, I just explained it for chemical recycling. On the one hand, we have an existing waste issue in Europe, in the world. Yeah, so there's something to be solved. And on the other hand, the chemical industry, especially in Europe, where we have a leading role in the society also, or in the world, yeah, we need to transform. So we need to do something. Yeah, and then it fits something together. So there is a feedstock which is there, yeah, and there are technologies like chemical recycling are there, and there is the need for change. And the need for change comes also from a big pressure from the society because we want to decarbonize and we want to go away from fossil resources. And that both come somehow together. Yeah. So in the end, if that fits together, then something evolves along the value chain as a force also for a successful change. And that's the responsible what every supply chain actor should have. That starts at the waste management thing that comes into play at the chemical industry to uptake that in the right way, and it comes into play further downstream at the converters and the brands who in the end are using that and are marketing that and generating market pull. Yeah. And all those collaboration and this whole transformation that must be supported because it costs still money. Yeah, not in investing new assets because that's what we want to avoid with mass balance, but also to set the right framework, and therefore we need policy support also for this transformation. So there is a responsibility not only from a manufacturer, it's a responsibility from all the supply chain actors to change here with the support of policy as another stakeholder, which should really set the right framework for that. Otherwise, it's not possible. Same you could also say for renewables. It's exactly the same play. Yeah, just in renewables, you have to take care a little bit more about sustainability, especially on the field. That it's a sustainable agriculture what you're doing. Yeah, and also this is guaranteed by transparency and by credibility of certification schemes, ensuring that by minimum requirements for sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add to this, I think what's also important is communicating it, because you said there is also a critical role in the society. So I think one crucial thing is creating awareness and communicating also these challenges down not only through the supply chain but down to the consumers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a more maybe light question on that, Christian. Have you been able to explain mass balancing to your like spouse or family and friends who are not from the industry? Because I think that's for me still a challenge in a way that they understand it. And your earlier question, Matt, was really valid. Like, how do you explain to a 5-year-old? Like, how do you explain to your wife?
If I'm honest, I always use an example which people know. Yeah. Like fair trade chocolate or FSC for wood, maybe somebody has recognized that, or I try to go via labels. Yeah, we are labels which people know. Yeah, and then that's mass balance behind. Yeah, and then people are trying. What's that? What's mass balance? Now I want to know it. What's behind that? Yeah, and then they are interested. If you start explaining that by a definition, what is mass balance according to ISO 2295, you lose immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already a lost game.
So you have to make it tangible, and you have to bring some best practice examples from daily life and then explain that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I find still, even if you talk about the FSC example and you explain to somebody that's mass balance, so the claim is not on your product that you have in your hands, that piece of paper, but it's an aggregate claim, they are shocked. They're like, "What, really?" Right? You have to explain, and still, like there's like a, a, a moment of disbelief. Like, really? So this, it's not this paper that I'm holding that is FSC certified, but it's like some quantity somewhere.
Yeah, and then I said, that's if you come with that very immediately and then say, there's no content in it, nothing there. This is greenwashing. Yeah, immediately. Yeah, no, it's not greenwashing. Greenwashing is when you have not fact-based information transforming to somebody which then misleads in the end. That's greenwashing. Yeah, and not what we are doing.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly. It remains a challenge.
Yeah, but you mentioned now that you mentioned greenwashing, so your approach is purely then science based, and the tools that you're using to verify the claims is mainly life cycle assessments, right?
Could be, yeah. I mean, I think what we're using often is fossil resource saving claims. Yeah, that's
Okay.
because that's what we are doing. We are substituting fossil feedstocks with sustainable feedstocks, renewables or recycled feedstocks. Um, and so that's the most credible one, what I think. Yeah, if it's going to content, especially to consumers, we have to be really, really careful because exactly that what Mesbah was also telling. There's no content in it. Yeah, or there often is no content in it. And how can you say that there is content? That's misleading. So that's a no-go, to my opinion. And brands know that. Yeah. And if you see on FSC, they never call something content. Yeah. I know that there are some attempts to use this claim mass balance attributed recycled content. Yeah, what's that? Yeah, can somebody on the street understand that? What's a mass balance attributed recycled content? Yeah, no.
Well, probably your kids, the 5-year-olds, if you were so smart when the age of 5, then your kids probably understand that. But that's the exception. Yeah, but that's why I mentioned. I think it's also important to involve the general public and communication strategies that help to create this awareness. Because in the end, if we want to really close the loop, I mean, one of the best examples was using biopolymers and what is a biopolymer like? 'Cause people that cannot distinguish between bio-based and biodegradable, and then even if you have a product that can be fully recycled or biodegraded, but if at the end of the chain no one has the knowledge what to do afterwards, or there is no infrastructure, it's not going to help in the end. But as you just mentioned, replacing fossil fuels, and since we like to talk about material innovations, what kind of, if we look into the future, like what kind of sustainable material solutions or emerging material solutions are you most excited about? Is there something that you think, wow, this is really, really exciting, what's coming up?
What's coming up or was already? Um,
Oh, both. I think.
what was really a really big achievement, and maybe the biggest achievement what BASF ever did on mass balance was last year, the deal with Henkel, because we sell roughly, I think, 100,000 tons of chemicals to Henkel. I think there are, I don't know, maybe thousands of products, just roughly. I don't know exactly the number, but really very, very complex. Yeah, they're going to cosmetics, they're going to detergents and industrial applications, and the target was to completely transform this portfolio to biomass balance. Yeah, and that was a real challenge. Yeah, first you need the feedstocks, because availability of feedstock is still a big issue.
Yeah.
Then you need really a fully digitalized system also. Now it comes Circularise in place, yeah, to know how much feedstock do I need to purchase in the end to attribute it to the product, yeah, and in an audible way, that we get a credible certification on that, yeah. And then there was many sites also involved. I would assume more than 10 sites, production sites, which are also interconnected. Yeah, so very complex, not only Ludwigshafen one site, so there was 10 sites involved. Yeah, so that was really, really a big challenge to cover that. And then also the supply chain, for sure, where we had to hire many more people to achieve that in the end. That was a really a big thing what we did. So and also that received actually BASF Sustainability Award in 2023. So this is why I'm mentioning. And such innovations we need. We need such lighthouse projects that where you could prove that it works, that it's scalable. Yeah, because currently mass balance is really nitty-gritty small in general. Yeah, but who has proven that it works in a 100,000 tons volume for one customer? I don't know any company, chemical company, yeah, who has achieved that, and that was really great. And to be part of that big team, yeah, and it was, I can really tell you, I think it was maybe 30 people involved or core people involved. Yeah, I was one of them. Together with Henkel, and Henkel the same. Yeah, we had the purchasing department, we had the R&D department, we had the LCA people there, we had the corporate sustainability people there, we had the marketing people also there. So you can imagine how complex it is to make that happen. Yeah, and so that's, you need tools for that, you need experts for that, you need a lot of passion and a lot of not too much people who always put the finger into the wound of risks and so on. Yeah, so you need really entrepreneurial people, yeah, who like to go forward and to change something. Yeah, and it took us, I think, 2 years to prepare this deal, and that was really a very big innovation. Coming to other innovations in future, I think on the chemical recycling side, so my home turf, currently, it's we have 30 million tons of plastic waste in Europe. I think 18% is currently mechanical recycled, so there's a vast majority which is currently still landfilled and incinerated. So, and we know that mechanical recycling can expand and should be expanded. That's fully clear, and BASF is also using that increasingly. But we need chemical recycling. And chemical recycling is not only pyrolysis and gasification, there are 15 different technologies. Sometimes one technology works only for one special plastic type. And sometimes technologies work for all plastic types, mixed plastic waste. The other one works only for monofraction. Yeah, so very, very complex. And so we need innovations in future, and with scalable chemical recycling. Scalable, I mean not in a 3,000 tons scale or a 10,000 ton scale, in a 50,000 ton scale, or even a 100,000 ton scale. And because when you want to supply a steam cracker, the most important chemical plants, we have 47 in Europe, and the big ones have today 2 million tons of capacity. 2 million tons of capacity. So how many plants of 10,000 tons we have to build to fill that steam cracker? That's amazing. Yeah, and if some people say how much waste can go into chemical recycling, it's maybe, let's say, 10 to 15 million tons. What currently the estimations are, yeah, that can fill maybe then 7 crackers, but we have 47 in Europe. Yeah, so there will be a lot of innovations still necessary, but that will be not enough. Yeah, so to really become fully circular. So that's the recycling. So renewables, I expect that there will be much more innovations, also technology-wise. CCU, maybe you've heard also, carbon capture utilization. So CO2, to bring CO2 back into chemicals, methanol, for example. But it needs 10 times more energy. Yeah. So people say, oh, CCU is very good, carbon removal and so on. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, but we need 10 times more energy for that. And where does the energy coming from? Yeah. Then people say, oh, we have a lot of areas still at the sea. Yeah. Maybe you've heard about that BASF bought, I think, one of the largest offshore wind parks in the Northern Sea. Yeah, that's the area of 260 square kilometers. I could not believe it myself. Yeah, and that generates the energy of 1% of the total German electricity consumption. Sounds good. Yeah. Now, how much does a chemical site like Ludwigshafen needs? Exactly 1% of German electricity production. So this one wind park only covers Ludwigshafen. Yeah. So how much area do we need in offshore? It's also not possible. So, and that only replaces conventional energy. Yeah, but it's not an additional one. Yeah, and we would need for CCU 10 times more. So I don't know why CCU could be playing such a big role, but I think that for energy generation, I would also expect that we need more innovations, and otherwise the full transformation to become really 100% circular will be very challenging, at least, if not impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's staggering. Like such a big land mass or sea mass, really, for just 1% that covers only Ludwigshafen. Like, well, and that's just Germany, right? look at it internationally. That's going to cover a lot. Like, or do you see other technologies that are more mature that we could utilize instead of these offshore ones, for example? What about just solar or more enough like even nuclear? Any ideas on those?
Yeah, it's a good question. Probably I have not a good answer. Yeah, and because you need also an affordable energy generation for the society. Yeah, and think about, for example, Dow Chemical. Yeah, they said, "Oh, we want a decarbonized energy generation." Do you know what they have invested now, or announced what they will invest? They invest for their main site in the US in an own nuclear power plant. Yeah,
Oh wow.
in an own nuclear power plant. Either you agree with that or not, but on the one hand, I can understand them. On the other hand, I have also think about Germany, and we are stepping out from nuclear power generation. Yeah, but if there is no alternative for generating huge amount of electricity, yeah, so what you should do? Yeah, so I expect personally that we don't go for only wind and solar energy. I think that we will have a mix, like in future, maybe the less coal. That's clear, because that's for CO2 the worst thing. Less probably natural gas. But it could be even that nuclear power plants gets a revival. Could be, yeah. Or there must be some new technology around which are currently not mature enough. Think about kernfusion. I don't know the name in English now. What is that? Kernfusion, nuclear fusion or something? Yeah.
Fusion.
Yeah.
Fusion. Nuclear fusion, yeah.
It's not that good. I mean, who can say that in 20 years you have the first plant? Nobody can say that. Yeah.
There is a just an anecdote. There is actually a physicist joke regarding nuclear fusion. I don't know.
I know the joke, Matt. I think we know the same.
Yeah. So if you ask a nuclear fusion physicist, how long does it take until nuclear fusion is mature? They will always say 50 years.
Always.
It's a very nerdy. I know it's a very nerdy, physicist joke. But still, like, we are in a plastics podcast, so we can have some nerdy jokes.
Yeah, no, I've heard the same joke, but I mean there are good signs. There are really good signs of that moving on. But indeed, it's not next year. It's not next 5 or 10 years. It's going to take a while. So fingers crossed. Maybe moving back to the Henkel example, Christian. Where are you now with that? Like, is it all done and dusted and deployed? What are the next steps? Is there anything you maybe learned from that you're now doing with other customers and other projects?
Sure, we have more than 1,500 mass balance products already. Our total portfolio is 45,000 products currently. But it's sustainable feedstocks always come also with additional costs. Yeah, and the question is, when you make such a big deal, it's painful for both, for the manufacturer and for the brand. Yeah, and you have to find a brand who's willing to spend this amount of money also for that. That's difficult. That's really difficult.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us, Christian, and especially for the inspirational discussion that we just had.